Hey, what's up, fam? Welcome to the Fucking Boss podcast. Today, as our guest, we have a professional baseball player, such a warrior, true inspiration for me. His name is Zach Johnson. So, what's up, my man? What are you in Berlin right now?
So I'm in Mainz. I'm south of Frankfurt.
Okay, it's like a big city. It's a small town.
Mainz is about 340 or 350,000 people. So
Okay,
not too big. And then Frankfurt is right there. Frankfurt, I think, is like 1.5 or 1.4 or something like that.
okay. Were you born like in a place like that, or you come out of a different background?
Well, coming from Canada, pretty smaller place.
Okay.
The place that I grew up in is about 25,000. Um, And what's really interesting is, obviously the population density of where I live is quite dense. Like there's a lot of people really close, whereas the where I lived, you could drive an hour before you got to the next, town, next city, and then obviously the next biggest city was like 3 hour drive. Because I grew up in the Canadian Rockies, so in
Okay.
the mountains growing up there. So
Okay. So I've been talking with Zach. We met on Clubhouse, and he told me about the baseball and about being traveling. Since when you were like traveling, started traveling because of baseball?
uh, when I was 8, I started traveling with baseball. So obviously, being like I said, being from the mountains, there wasn't too many good teams around there. So I played on. I was fortunate to make some all star teams. I played a couple years up, so I was actually on the 10-year-old team when I was 8 years old, and then traveled into the United States, and then we went all across British Columbia, into Vancouver, and then into Alberta. So started traveling, and then as my career continued to progress, I played on more teams that traveled farther, and we went on quite a few long bus trips and road trips. Being from Canada, going on a 6-7 hour bus trip is nothing, so 6-7 hour bus trip to go and play in a big city. We were, playing in Seattle, playing in Portland, playing in Spokane, playing in different areas like that. And then obviously when I went to college in California, so I moved 24 hours away from home. Um, and then in California, you just play all over California, which California is pretty big and got lots of really good college baseball programs. So played there, and then from California, been all over. Since playing in California, I've been in 5 countries that I've played in as my home team, or the organization that I play for. I've been in 5 different countries. But as far as countries that I've traveled to, particularly for baseball, I've been to 13 different countries
Wow.
because of it.
So sometimes you just travel like to play in those countries, like I don't know, like a league
Mm-hmm.
there and that kind of stuff.
Either that or like tournaments. So European style is a little bit different, right? You'll have a tournament in different countries where, for example, a couple years ago we played spring training. We were about a week and a half. We were in Italy,
Okay.
so we were right outside Rome for about a week and a half. Played there for about a week and a half against teams from France, the Netherlands, Germany, all over different parts of Europe, and then traveled throughout Germany in the main league. But if anybody's familiar with like Champions League soccer, how they kind of bring the best teams together and they play in different countries, that's essentially how it happens. So,
Okay, kind of the UEFA, right? That each
mm-hmm.
country, like the best of those
Yep.
countries, are playing, but it's internationally also, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Well, it's just Europe, yeah, with the baseball leagues here.
also Europe, but with the baseball league, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
it was like kind of I don't know, because here in America, baseball is big. United
Yeah, of
States,
course.
Canada, Mexico, and in the Caribbean they have like these good players. And this
Mm-hmm.
in those island, a lot of those guys that are playing baseball come from there. But hearing about Europe and all of other parts of the world that usually you don't hear about that, like that it. Of course, maybe some kids would love to play it. Maybe some kids play with their friends,
Yeah.
but I don't think that I've heard that was a big thing and actually have leagues and tournaments and you can actually travel. So it's pretty interesting that that sport has spread across the world and actually it's I think it's a big one, and I've done like a little research before like talking to you, and I saw that also in Japan there's a big league. Like they like
Mm-hmm.
the sport, they like playing it, and it's getting bigger, right? So
Mm-hmm.
How do you see like the sport there, like growing, or I don't know, like getting as big as in the U.S. Maybe have some players over there like getting in a good play, good game,
Hmm.
so you can travel. I don't know, like how do you see the scene?
Yeah. Well, so obviously, like the main professional league is, when everybody thinks of baseball, it's the Major League Baseball, right? So you have the top league where guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars, and then there's the minor leagues. Yeah, so the minor league system is set up quite a bit differently, and depending on the organization that you're with, depending on the organization's contract method, different things like that, you can play, quite a lot and not get paid very well,
Okay.
and it can be quite tough mentally, physically. There's lots of stories of guys that have played in the minor leagues and they're not eating properly, they're not sleeping properly. It's tough, and for anybody that has gone through it, if you're not eating properly, it coincides. You're not going to perform properly, and then you're not going to sleep properly, and it kind of just compounds, and it kind of after a while becomes pretty difficult. So a lot of guys do look for other options. The leagues in the Asia Pacific, whether it be Australia, Japan, China, South Korea has a really good league as well. There's quite a few really good leagues there, but again, like you said, unless you know that they're there, you have no idea. And the popularity of the game is quite big in the rest of the world too. It's not as big as the United States, Canada, Mexico, or the Latin American countries, like you said, but it is growing. And what is really interesting is actually 2 years ago there was a game in London, played at Wembley Stadium, between the Red Sox and the Yankees. They actually played there, so that was the first internationally played major league game that was not in North America, so to say. So they've had games in Mexico, they've had games obviously in Canada, games in the United States, but they've never had a game overseas across the Atlantic. So that was kind of a huge bridging gap for that, and so the game's definitely growing. Obviously, it's nowhere near soccer or football. As the Europeans call it, is the number one sport in the world by far, right? Like that's the easiest game for anybody to play. All you need is a ball, right?
Right.
I think the popularity is definitely coming up. It is behind basketball as well. Still, basketball is still very popular worldwide, but I definitely do think it's growing quite a bit. And the one thing that is really, even in the time that I've been here, so I've been in Europe since 2016 playing. Um, in the time that I've been here, what's really interesting is the more and more really talented Americans, Latin American guys that you have coming over, Canadians, like just talented baseball players coming over here, it forces everybody else in the league to get better. And so as that happens, the league gets more popular, and then you have more ticket sales, and it all kind of connects. Obviously, COVID's kind of hit that pretty hard as far as people being able to travel and the leagues being able to have guys. As well as the import rules in each country is kind of interesting. So if you have an EU passport, you don't count as an import, and you can have as many guys as your team can afford to pay. But if you do not have an EU passport, so yourself, myself, we would count as imports against the import spots. So you have to be pretty talented to be able to get one of those import spots, because it's like a golden ticket essentially, right? If a team pays for a bad import, it can wreck the whole season. Um, so it's quite a bit of different process. Whereas in the United States, like you don't have to have an import process. There is different regulations on age and different things like that, and obviously salaries, but it plays into quite a bit different nationalities and things over here. So what often you'll see is teams will sign a guy from Latin America, Canada, United States that has European ancestry and has a passport. A guy that's from Ireland, a
Okay.
guy that has a Spanish passport, Italian. Those guys are very highly wanted because the teams can bring them over and not have to deal with visa issues, not have to deal with different things like that. So
Of course. So it's not only playing the game, like it sounds like very strategically, like a chess,
mm-hmm.
because I don't know, like the team needs to really think about the movements and who they are like taking, and yeah, man, I never heard about that, but what you mentioned about the major league, like putting a game outside of the USA or Canada or Mexico, I think it's a great. It's something like
Mm-hmm.
can start something, right? Because here in
Yeah.
Mexico, sometimes they bring NFL games, they bring NBA games. They are start to bring in more and more games because the sport gets popular, so you get more fans,
Mm-hmm.
and now that those fans demand, the games and everything. So
Yeah.
it must be hard, like not having. I don't know if you have audience there, like sport fans when
Mm-hmm.
they are playing, but during pandemic everything has changed, and I think it has slowed things down because I don't think you tell me it's the same now that you maybe playing without like I don't know, people screaming and people like cheering for
Yeah.
you. I don't know, like for me it's what the way I think it's you need those people like to inspire or to motivate you to drive you. So what has changed ever since I don't know, like back before the pandemic and right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for a lot of guys, if they are the type of player that really feeds off the energy of the crowd, they'll be successful half the time. Whereas if you're a person that can kind of get yourself motivated and it doesn't matter where you're playing, who you're playing against, what the weather is, anything like that, you are going to be a lot more successful. I played with some really talented players who were those type of players that got really excited and fed off the crowd that are no longer playing baseball because baseball, as you know, baseball is one of those sports where you're going to have times where it's going to suck. You're going to have times where it is going to be not fun to be at the baseball park because you're struggling. You're maybe not you're hitting the ball well, but you're not getting on base, or you're pitching well, but guys are hitting. It's just how the game goes. And the guys that feed on that emotional roller coaster essentially are guys that really easily get burned out.
Okay.
So as far as there being crowds and different things like that, it is nice. Obviously, it's fantastic to have fans cheering and kids holding signs or different things like that. That's great. But if you're able to just kind of get back to the basics and just be there and be passionate about playing without needing the emotions of the fans, I think it'd be a lot more successful. So for myself, I've never really fed off the crowd. I kind of have a mechanism that I get into where I just zone everything out. I don't really listen to what's going on anyway. So I could be playing in front of 20 people or 25,000 people like I did in Puerto Rico and have no difference. A lot of other people, though, it just depends, right? Everybody has their own process. So,
Okay, okay, yeah, for sure. Like everybody gets in that zone, in that I don't know if you can call it zone, but yeah, sometimes I have like this. I don't know. It's a hobby, and actually, I really enjoy running. 10K. I don't know, like half a marathon, 21K, and actually the one that I pretty enjoyed, like really enjoyed, is the full marathon, like the 42K or it's 26.6 miles, and I do enjoy it. And but I do music. I use music. I need to have
mm-hmm.
my songs playing in there to get motivated. I don't care about the people that much. I don't, but I do feed of the. I don't know. I get my power and strength from
Yeah.
playing some bangers over there. Do you use music like before a game or maybe just in trainings or that doesn't work when you're like playing baseball?
Well, so most guys have like a walk-up song, right? So there's music playing in between innings, in between when pitchers are warming up, in between innings and things like that. And each player, batters have a walk-up song. So as they're walking up to the plate, they have a song. Usually it's something that kind of motivates you or something that is kind of, whatever. How guys play with it differently. I always try to use a song that has a little bit of motivation that I use, like you said, when in the off season doing running or different things like that. A song that kind of kicked that fire up for me for sure. Pre-game, I do have like a list of music that I do listen to, but the big thing that I really do before games, I meditate before every game. I have like a meditation process that I go through. It really kind of helps me calm down. I think whether it be speaking in front of a crowd or playing in front of a crowd or whatever, right? It's so easy for our minds to get so far ahead of us, and we create anxiety that we don't need. So just really try to just stay calm in the moment and not really, like I said earlier, not really needing to feed off that energy, just being able to kind of have that own culmination. So yeah, I'm really big on meditation. I started doing that after I had my shoulder surgery. I really recognized how important it was to kind of just be calm and not let the anxiety kind of take over, and it's helped me a lot.
Wow, that's I mean, it's a process, right? Like meditation
Hmm.
and getting in that zone. And actually, what you have said, like you don't need to feed off something like external. You have that in yourself, and when you can get in that zone, meditate. I don't know, like to really enjoy the game or everything like that can be translated
Hmm.
to any activity, your work, being with your family, a surgery. I don't know, like getting in that point where you can actually like I don't know, look into yourself and from there take that energy. That you don't need like that crowd or that song. I don't know. I do
Yeah,
believe in that, and but it's a process, right? I don't think I'm there yet.
absolutely.
Sometimes I've tried meditation. I love learning stuff. You know, like when we were talking and I heard that you were over Berlin. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Um,
Yeah.
so I studied 3 years, I think so, German, just to enjoy it. People usually
Hmm.
were asking like, "Hey, are you gonna work for I don't know a company there in German, or are you? I don't know." There was no reason. I just liked learning. So when I heard you talk about the sports, I come of a family that has ever since I was a kid. I did soccer, I did football, I did
Yeah.
basketball, running. Like they put me into that path, and I like that the way you sounded. Like you talk a little bit of your surgery, so that must mean that a comeback. It's pretty strong because mentally, I do think that mentally is like the hardest part coming back
Hmm.
from a surgery or an injury. So I do think that you're like a very I don't know strong minded and focused guy. Like and I don't know like just listening about your travels and it must I don't know in culture and meeting people and it has been as the way I see it like pretty interesting kind of life, right? It's been a ride and you're
Yeah.
so young like I don't know like you have so many years to play because I've seen that in baseball. I don't know, but those guys usually I've seen that some players play like 40 years. Like I don't know, like
Hmm.
they're in their 40s and they're still like look I don't know good,
Yeah.
like in
They're still
shape.
doing okay. Yeah.
So I do think that
Yeah.
it's a sport that actually you can have a long career. Correct me if I'm wrong here,
Hmm.
because there are other sports that
Um.
don't.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, right? It is so tough mentally that a lot of guys are able to kind of transition. Maybe they used to be really fast running, or they used to throw really hard, or they used to hit the ball really far, and they find that point. So I know you like basketball, so Kobe Bryant was a perfect example of this. Early in his career, the guy dunked over people. He would slash and score all the time. And later in his career, he got really wise at learning the game and kind of playing it in a different way. That's when he did the number change. That's essentially when his game changed, right? He changed from
Eight.
early age Kobe, number 8, to the older 24. And what's really interesting is the mentality that he talks about. I'm not sure if
Mamba.
you've read his book, the Mamba mentality. And so when he talks about it, when he transitioned over, he knew that his body, he wasn't going to be able to jump as high. He knew that he wasn't going to be as fast. He knew that but his skills and his just experience just helped him so much. So for baseball, right, if you come in and you're a young guy that's really fast and you can throw far or you can hit really well, as you get older, you learn the game a little bit different, right? And of course, you're going to be playing against younger players, but you have the advantage of experience. So a young guy might come out there and he's trying 125%, and as a pitcher, he's trying to throw it past you, but he's going to make mistakes. So you just wait for that mistake and you crush it, right? And so it just becomes a different game. If you can keep your body healthy, you can play a long time in baseball because you can transition kind of like that mindset. A lot of guys, though, between 27 and 32 have a lot of injuries because those are the ages where your big contracts come. That's where you're typically getting paid a lot more money because those are considered your prime years, right? Between 24 in baseball, pretty much 24 to about 32 are your prime years, so to say. Um, so a lot of guys train harder, lift heavier weights, do different things, don't rest as much because they're really trying to get those bigger contracts, trying to get more money. So guys tend to break down a little bit in that time. So it just depends. It's like anything, just keeping yourself healthy and mentally strong is the biggest thing. Um, you were talking about being mentally strong coming back from surgery. Like with my shoulder, I was told I had a 40% chance to ever play again. That was 9 years ago. I was told that I was never, possibly going to play again. I've been able to obviously continue playing since then. During that time, though, I have missed, one thing with baseball is the way that it's set up. Most things that happen during the summer, right? Weddings, big birthday parties, anniversaries, miss all of those. So if you're a person that can't disconnect from that, it's not that you don't want to be there, right? But I've missed 50th birthday parties for my parents. I've missed weddings for brothers. I've missed all sorts of things because I've been playing. And that, after a while, starts to really hammer on people. I've seen guys that have missed a couple weeks to go to weddings, and they come back and they're just not the same player, right? And so it is different mentally, but as you get a little bit older, your priorities change, right? You're no longer like, oh, I want to go to the field and play or hang out with my buddies. I want to hang out with my wife or my kids or whatever. So it just kind of depends where you're at mentally, but also, of course, physically.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. My sister used to do synchronized swimming. She was part of the
Mm-hmm.
national team here in Mexico, and she missed a lot, and we miss her on those dates. So it's pretty hard, like being away from your family, and to me, it's
Mm-hmm.
spending time with the people you love, and those, I don't know, like social events. Man, some people actually like seeing you there, and I don't know, it must be tough. And I just like enjoy the, I don't know what I like about sports, about that sports life. It doesn't matter, but I don't know, like the triumph of the human spirit. I don't know if that,
Mm-hmm.
like, I do cry more, or at least my time of crying is during Olympics. Like when I see something, I don't know, I get goosebumps. I get hyped. For me, sports and
Mm-hmm.
music are a big part, and I don't know, but that really vibrates with me and makes me so emotional. I don't know, that makes me more emotional that actually seeing something sad, or experience something bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it is, but I don't know, seeing athletics, seeing a match. I love tennis. Like when you see a good match, it's amazing. So I'm truly inspired by people like you. I don't know, because I translate that to my life, to whatever
Mm-hmm.
I do. I try, like, how to put it, like the Kobe book that you just talk about. Yeah, man, like getting mature, that's life. Like you gotta adjust. You're not the same guy anymore. You need
Yeah.
to take those advantages, like the experience. Okay, I'm not that jumpy right now. I'm not that nervous. I don't know, like you start knowing yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where are my strengths? Where are my, I don't know, not so many strengths,
Yeah.
and just use it in the game and in life, right, my man?
Yeah. Absolutely. And to kind of just go off of that too, the guy he just won the Super Bowl. I absolutely love Tom Brady. That is a person that is defying everything that was ever said in front of him. And so, you know, kind of part of the reason why I started my own podcast too is to talk about that mindset, to have people come on and talk about the mindset to kind of get to that next level because I've used it myself and I know a lot of other people, but it's kind of like it's interesting. Nobody talks about it when we're kids, right? We were never taught mindset to overcome things. It was kind of always like, oh, you fall down, right, at school, and the teacher goes, oh, are you okay? Like, let's check your knee and make sure you're okay. They're never like, hey, no, it's okay. Just get back out there. You might have had the odd time somebody like that, but most of the time it's that protective mode, right? Teachers are very protective. Parents, for the most part, are pretty protective. And so we kind of get that mindset of like, it's okay if I just stay down. Whereas, like, I love Tom Brady's mindset, right? The guy was completely overlooked, won a few Super Bowls, and all of a sudden the team that he was with wasn't doing so well, and everybody's like, oh, this guy's done. He's won more Super Bowls since he was 35. He just turned 43, just won another one. Like, his mindset and where he's at is just unparalleled in most sports. I mean, he plays arguably one of the most physical sports in the world. The guy's still dominating. You know, he might not be, yeah, like you said, he might not throw as far, he might not have as many touchdowns per year. Still pretty amazing. And so, you know, I think, like you said, being able to translate that into anything that we do. You know, if you're producing music or you're doing music, and you know you have a song that you think is really good, but it doesn't catch on with people, you can either decide, you know, sort of say I suck, or you know the music's no good, or just look at it and go, what do I need to change to make it better so that people like it, right? There's two different options. You have the option to run away from it or run into the fear and discomfort. And what's so funny is we have that little voice in the back of our head that we were taught when we were little kids, right? It's always, I don't think you should do that. It's like that hot plate, right? We don't ever learn that the plate is hot and we shouldn't touch it until we touch it, right? Kids are amazing for that kind of stuff. You see a kid go up to the hot thing or touch the cold thing or whatever because they want to know. And at some point, as we were transitioning into adolescence, into adulthood, that was taught out of us. We were always taught to fear the unknown, right? And so many people will get stuck in that bubble of comfort zone and they'll never step into the unknown. For me, I went to California to play in college, didn't know a single person, was 24 hours away from home, didn't know anybody, you know, was there. I flew to Puerto Rico, didn't know a single person there to play, didn't speak Spanish, but I was like, I'm going there to play, you know, didn't know anybody. I came to Germany, didn't speak a word of German, you know, came here, didn't know a single person. With it, the closest person that I knew was 500 kilometers away from me. You know, so I didn't know anyone. I just kind of always looked at it like I would rather step outside that comfort zone, step into the unknown and learn a lesson, either by failing or by succeeding. But either way, I'm going to be better than where I was. Where if I stayed behind and I would have never taken those risks, I would be looking at myself now going, oh, what if? And I never at any point in my life want to have that what if, right? That what if is so many people, if you read a lot of different books and things like that, they always talk about one of the biggest things that happens for people that are in an older age. They always have two different perspectives. Excuse me. They have two different perspectives. They have, I'm so glad I did all those things. Yeah, I screwed up. Yeah, I made some failures along the way. Yeah, I might have been an idiot. I could have been better in this relationship or better here. Or they have, oh my God, I wasted my life. What if I would have done this? There's never any in between. It's always, I'm so glad I took those risks. I'm so glad I did this. Or it's complete regret. I've never wanted to be somebody that looks back when I'm 60, 70, 80 and been like, oh, when I was younger, if I would have tried this. I mean, you know, and one of the best conversations I've ever had is with one of my coaches when I was in high school. You know, he was kind of mentoring me a little bit, and he said to me, he's like, well, you know, if you go there and you fail. And I was like, what do you mean if I go there and fail? And he's like, well, if you go to the school and you don't do so well. And I was like, yeah, but if I don't go, I'm going to end up like you. And I don't want to be mad at everybody sitting here coaching kids because I didn't take a chance. And he looked at me and he was kind of mad. But I had a conversation with him a few years ago, and he's like, I'm really glad you stood up to me like that. He's like, obviously it's been successful and you've gone on to do different things. And he's like, I don't really know why I thought like that. I'm like, because that's all you ever knew, right? And that's what, it's the same thing as companies that go, oh, this is how we've always done things. You look at Blockbuster. Blockbuster's a prime example. Kodak, different companies like that. They're like, oh no, this is how we've always done things, and they don't move forward. They don't innovate. They don't step into that unknown. How long do those companies last, right? It's kind of the same thing with how fast moving the world is. You know, we talked a little bit about the pandemic, how the pandemic's changed everything. If you and I were to look at the world differently, you know, than everybody else, we could put ourselves ahead. Where if we looked at it as we did before the pandemic, we wouldn't be doing anything successfully, right? You have to be able to be open to new opportunities.
I really love the way, it's because we haven't talked about this, but actually I do think that way. And it doesn't come out of a virtue, or I wasn't born with it. But I cannot, like, at night have that feeling of regret. Like, something happens in my day, I didn't make that question. I didn't ask for that. I didn't did the job or did the work. And in my mind at night, it's hard, like, knowing that, and I cannot deal with regret. But I can deal with a no. You know, like, if I ask someone, hey, can you help me with this? And they say no, I'm okay because I tried, you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all that way all my life. It changed because I the regret just stuck in my head, and it was like, what if, what if, what if, and I don't want to live with that. So I make like myself more confident because I
Mm-hmm.
feel regret, not because I'm very confident just to, but also to speak to a girl or something. I can take the no. I know that it not all of that you will do is gonna play well, right? But you gotta
Right.
like
Yeah.
move, still make that question, still make that work, take that project, take that work, and adjust. Like with this reference with sports and in your life, I don't know. Like I see it that way. Actually, when you started like talking that way, I was like, oh, we connected for a reason, my man, because
Yeah.
we connected because of other things that were said. But actually, I do believe that's pretty amazing. Like adjusting, and not regretting. I don't wanna end up, I don't know, at the end of my life saying I wish I could. So what
Mm-hmm.
you were saying about those two things, the extremes, I'm so glad I did this, and I regret not doing that. I saw something like that, and I don't know, like 80% of the elders were saying also that most of the things they said were regrets rather than they remember like not doing stuff, and I don't know, like even if they made mistakes, they didn't remember that. Like, oh, I made that
Mm-hmm.
mistake. I regret. No, no, no. They were like, I regret not doing the thing, not doing the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's inspiring for someone else, but at least for me, man, I love talking. I would love to keep knowing about how your life is going there and everything. You know, like it's pretty amazing
Mm-hmm.
taking some of your time because I know that I don't know it's your far. The you need to train, you need to get ready there, and but it's been amazing. It's alright, right? Like life and you
Yeah.
putting
Of course.
all of those things together. Yeah, I do think that you can translate that to your mindset. No, always learning. I'm always a student, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. So how do you know if you can like have a link or pay for watching those leagues here in America? Do you have I don't know.
Yeah. So most of the teams that we have their own kind of TV channel, so to say, that you can watch online. So yeah, definitely. Once with how the pandemic is right now, I have no idea when the league is going to start up. They actually have a baseball federation meeting this week to talk about when the season's going to start or kind of what it's going to look like. So at that point, then I'll figure out what's going on. But yeah, of course, if there is, I'll definitely let you know for sure.
Okay, you just let me know. I will link it to the video and everything. So it's been a pleasure,
Sounds
Zach.
good.
Like, come on,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have this vibe, this amazing vibe. You're smiling there and actually throwing facts, and I don't know. You have read, you know the history of the sport, and I don't know, not only your sport, I don't the other sports, and actually it's truly inspiring. You know, like I just think that everything that's heard today you can translate and adjust and imply to your
Hmm.
personal life, to work life, and I don't know to everything. It just works that way. So they're not
Yeah.
separate things.
Yeah, and for me too, the biggest thing I think is for me not comparing to other people, right? Like if you and I are sitting here and having a good conversation and somebody else is listening to it, of course you can look at it and say, okay, I'd like to take on some of the mindset, or I'd like to take on some of that. But what really happens, and this is something, we could talk about in a long detail, but with social media is we get so stuck in this comparing to other people, right? And one of the best things that helped me, I got stuck in that. Unfortunately, we all do. Being on social media, you see the people maybe close to your age that have a nice car, a sports car. They have the nice house. They have all these different things. But the thing that we need to recognize is like that's a highlight reel. We need to understand that whether they're the richest person in the world or somebody that's just getting out of school and maybe struggling a little bit or whatever the case is, they're not going to put that stuff on social media, right? And so when we're looking at other people's social medias, we're seeing all these flashy pictures, we're seeing all these things. That's not their whole life, right? And so when we only compare to their highlight reel, it's really easy to get down or sad or get into that comparative, and then all of a sudden it kind of spirals out a little bit, where all of a sudden we're like, oh, I'm not doing enough, right? But then on the other side of that, if we're not challenging ourselves to be a better version of ourselves, we're never going to get better. I have a display on my phone, a screensaver that literally says 1% better every single day. Because if we get 1% better every single day, whether it be reading or, like you said, being open to have conversations with different people from various parts of the world, or just, conversations that expand our horizons. Like, do you always have to agree with everything people are saying? Absolutely not. But you should still be able to listen and take some of that in, and to be able to at least think about it, right? And that's doing those things for me has exponentially opened my mind up to, so many various things, which has been amazing.
Well, that's true, my man. And I do enjoy like and getting to know more people, like, and because like what you were saying, it's personal, I will take that advice, I will take that bit of motivation there, that knowledge that I've just heard from this girl, from this guy, from I don't know, and apply it to my life, so I can, even if it's 1% a day, it's gonna be 365%. It's a huge growth a year. So
You're a whole different person in a year.
yeah, I do believe that I'm always changing. I'm trying to be better each day. Sometimes I don't know. Some things go there and actually I cannot make, but I still go. Resilience, it's called, right? Like,
Yeah, resiliency. Yeah.
so I've been listening to a lot of conversation, interesting people there on Clubhouse, and the good thing is that I dare to speak, because English is not my native language, but I don't care. Like,
Right.
I do speak, I do ask questions, I try to interact, and people actually, when you are that way, like respect, and you have good energy, and you are like humble enough, like to say the things. I don't know. That's international. That's you don't need a language for
Yes.
that, and just getting better, just getting to know interesting people like you, because after this call, those things are gonna like be on my mind, and it's good, my man, because it's pretty morning here, and you just woke me like I was like, okay, yeah, I need to do the things for me, you have your stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna have an amazing day because of that. So we can like keep talking for hours, I think, but I really enjoy, and I thankful that about meeting you, about you taking the time to do this. For sure, we
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
like
It's my pleasure.
talk other time about other topic or more focus, but I just wanted like people to know you. I just wanted to pose you and see and let them know that this guy has a pretty interesting life, and if you can like take a minute out of your day and watch it, you can get a lot of stuff there. So thank you, my man. It's been great.
I appreciate it a lot. Thanks a lot, Carlo. It's been good. We'll definitely be in contact.
For sure, my man.